Well, this is a good way to start because, by the way, laughter, we have to remember to not take ourselves too seriously, Justin.
Well, not only laughter, but I was somebody posted somewhere on social media about what crying actually does in such a great way. It's really good for the body to cry. So
Okay, well, we'll see if we can get there in this discussion, but I'm happy to start with laughter.
great, fine, great.
All right, well, because you're a quick start like I am,
Yeah.
and and so just for the record, we had zero conversation before I start recording here. And but what I like to do, so with some guests, they like to talk a little before and get comfortable with things. And with Justin, like I know that will just dissipate his energy. So
Yeah. Understood.
my strategy here is do not waste any time on preliminary stuff. Just let's get into it. So, but I always like to state the intention of what I'm doing here and what we're doing here, and I'll let Justin speak for himself. But my intention with the smoke trail is simply this. I have been on a my own journey. I'm dubbing it the smoke trail because I did, and along the way, I have learned so many different things from so many people, from so many great sources, texts, things, and most importantly, by my own direct experience. And in so doing, I have picked up things that would have helped me along the way had it been organized or been presented in a little different way than what's out there. So my intention is simply to share what I'm learning along the way, invite people who are on their own paths to share things that I think can be also useful to people, and people can take what they take out of it. And, if you're watching this, you're here, you're on your own path, and there's a reason you're listening. So I assume it's a self-selecting audience who are interested in enlightenment, what an awakening, what a spiritual path of some sort means in the modern era, combined with what does it mean if you're in a leadership position, if you're in a position where you influence others just by where you are, what you do. And what I see is this convergence that the challenge of our era, Justin, in my view, is not to become enlightened and awakened and then go off on a mountain like the one behind me, although it's very attractive, and not talk to anybody again. But how do we integrate that with our day-to-day lives? And if we're in a position where our path has led us to leadership and to influence others, like how do we integrate what we're learning and embody an enlightened way in the modern era? That's my intention.
It's beautiful, man. That's so laughter and crying and leadership and paths and smoke. Let me I'll simplify that. Well, that was great. Great start. Before big speeches or interviews like this, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he would read the following quote to himself.
Great.
If
I
you
love Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, of course, right. If you knew who walked beside you at all times on this path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. These kind of things, I like to start it like that because, like, we've been given some type of gift, and then we're using it. So we're given a gift from some type of higher power, and then like, oh well, here's the gift. Well, let's make the most of it. And then I guess my gift that was given, able to simplify life's complexities into patterns. And then to your earlier point, what's the point of like becoming a monk or a recluse or whatever? You need to share it, So I'm informing people either through books. Very grateful. Dr. Deepak Chopra is doing the intro for next book. Or movies, apparently. Very grateful Gary Sinise has agreed to narrate a documentary that apparently I'll be starring in, which is, I guess, that's part of informing people, but it's about my dad, who was
that's exciting. That's really exciting.
right. It's so don't go away on the mountaintop. Inform people. Started two new music companies that have AI incorporated into them. I haven't been able to announce it publicly yet, but the partner for the second company is a very well-known figure in the actual music industry, which I know nothing about. So that'll be exciting to announce that. And then literally within the last couple days, and should be able to announce it more today, starting a leadership company incorporating the 4 elements of life. So that would be fire, earth, wind, and water. And we're going to be creating some type of assessment with that to basically show people what type of leader they are.
I love it. You know what I love? One of the things I love about Justin, you, is you have zero fear of jumping into things that you are unfamiliar with, and just going with what your gut
heart
gives
and gut.
you.
Heart and gut.
Heart and gut, and like the music thing, like that just came out of conversations and manifested. And then I know you had an opportunity to start socializing it last week or with me at the IPI Camden Wealth Family Office event, and start talking to people. But so we're going to get into some of those things. I think that they're really cool. And one of the things that I like to say at the start, and what I intend here, is that we try to break as much ground as we can. In other words, not for the sake of breaking ground, but if there's something that they can find on your website, my website, a talk we gave, that's great. We can point to it, and let's share it more deeply. What I find in our conversations that frankly, any one of which could have been an episode, frankly, just naturally, is that there's just we go deep pretty fast, and there's no holding back. It's not like hey, here's a book report on something. It's really about like what's the 5% up or down, the things that are really, really, really meaningful. And one of the things that you talked about in the pre-work that we'll publish alongside this episode, one of the questions was, what's the most significant lesson you've learned from failure or challenging period, darkest moments, whatever. And you went to your story about your dad being hit by the drunk driver, I think dying on the spot, and then your mom, it was his nurse, and is that how they met?
That's how they met. And so my dad was 61 when I was born. His 109th birthday was February 8th, so
wow,
a couple days ago. He's obviously not alive still, but
but talk about spanning the generations. And you were born to someone who was born in
1916.
1916. Wow.
Yeah, so I don't like using the word should, but I should be like 80 years old, and then I'm 47 in human form, and then I have like the childlike mindset, heart set of like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. I'm like a little kid. I'll talk about my dad in a second, but so when you lead with you're just purely vulnerable, lead with your heart, like my dad always did. He died when I was 13, but when you do that, it can be very difficult at times, meaning like if you really love someone, you just tell them. Some people aren't necessarily ready to hear things like that or feel things like that. In human design, I'm a manifester. I would not be surprised if you're a manifester as well, but manifestors have to tell people how they feel no matter what. And it's not to create problems or anything, it's to create peace. So all these things that have been started or launched, they're just pure products of leading with heart, gut, intuition, and then informing people about them. And most of the world, in fact, the overwhelming majority of the world, even in entrepreneur world, the overwhelming majority of the world, they don't function like that, which is totally fine. So to be like this, it takes a long time to find the right people. A long time. Sometimes
because Justin, you create resistance, right? Like if you're you could call it blunt, but if you are as blunt as one can be, which is like truthful, that can feel offensive, that can feel then like an affront to someone, and they can it can create a lot of resistance. So finding your people, I think that's one of the great lessons certainly I've learned, is that hey, you know what, this is a big world. There's 8 billion plus people today. They're not all for each other. First of all, we didn't come in at the same consciousness level as infants, which, by the way, we all have a kind of starting point, and we don't have the same mission, or dharma or what karma to work through. And
Right.
not everybody's for everybody. And as I've
Right.
gone through this process and I've become, I don't want to say I don't care, but I kind of, it is that in some ways.
Yeah.
It's really a falling away of,
Yes.
it's not even a not caring. It's an automatic falling away of the people who don't resonate with where I'm resonating, and an
Yes.
automatic attraction with the
Yes.
people who are resonating along the same lines. Like, again, like you and I have connected instantly. Like, we got introduced. I think Ned introduced us.
Yeah.
We talked instantly. We're like, okay, we're fast friends. Like that first call, and then it just kind of manifested from there. And it
100%.
didn't take us very long to do that. And that was an energetic resonance. It wasn't because we had a long, deep
Don't need to.
courtship to become friends.
Don't need to.
No.
And well, one, thanks for saying that. Just to in some way humanize this, if it's helpful, because inform, right? In numerology, and I didn't even know what numerology was 6 months ago, but in numerology, I'm an 11 life path, which is very rare. It's called a master number. And then it's essentially two people in one. So the first half of life is a one, which is leadership, ego, achievement, leadership, ego, achievement, leadership, ego, achievement. And then around the 45-year-old mark, I'm 47, 47 and a half, you become a two, which is deeply, deeply spiritual, deeply emotional, incredibly sensitive. Rise of the divine feminine, which I mean, again, if you would have told me I'd be talking about that 6 months ago, I wouldn't have believed it. And then most 11s really struggle because it's such a big purpose, and you're two people in one person. They retreat into a life of solitude, the monk life. They will literally retreat into the abyss, a simple, quiet life. I am the exact opposite of that. I will just plow through, no matter what, and then obviously we'll have to see about that. But apparently, master numbers, which are 11, 22, and 33, they're supposedly in their last incarnation on this planet, or at least one of the last ones. So hopefully I've learned enough lessons at this point. That's what my book's about, Epic Journey book. So hopefully I've learned enough lessons where I finally passed that test. We'll have to wait and see, but I hope that's the case.
When is your expect? Do you know when it's coming out yet?
I would say within a few months.
Okay.
I just received the parts of the final manuscript. And let's see, what can I say? So the publishing team for this is one, I mean, they just are. They're one of the top publishing teams in the world. This was purely manifested. To have Deepak Chopra do the intro, I'm very grateful for that. But the actual book manuscript was written in like a couple of weeks, just completely followed my heart to this town in France that I had never heard of in my life. Was following my dad's World War II. My dad was a World War II hero who fought in the Battle of the Hürtgen Forest toward the end of World War II. And then after he died, I found this diary of his from the battle, and that's what this documentary is going to be about as well. Gary Sinise is, big into World War II and veterans, so he's
Sure.
narrating it. And then it's going to be me going back to the Hürtgen Forest area to
Was
follow.
that the one? Was that where the Band of Brothers thing was, or is that a different one?
Parts of it, but that's a good point. So the Hurricane Forest is like it's not this, but I think of this as the movie Fury with Brad Pitt. It was that horrific. That was not filmed in Hurricane Forest, but I have the diary. There's multiple parts of it in the Epic Journey book, but like there's no way my dad should have survived that. He was one of the few out of hundreds of people in his unit to survive. And then people like us, the true visionaries were the ones that for some reason we have the EQ and IQ or the gift from the higher power. I was last year I was on Necker Island, where Sir Richard Branson lives, and spent 5 days with him, and he almost died right in front of me on a bike crash, like literally bicycle. And I go,
Really?
"How are you not dead?" And he's like, "I've always had." He said he's always had a North Star protecting him, which I feel like people like us, there's some type of North Star protecting us, and then even since childhood, we felt like we were different and didn't necessarily belong in human world. So
I think everyone has that. It's just they're not necessarily aware of it.
They're not aware of it.
You know, I think everyone has their guardians, angels or whatever, North Star, whatever you want to call it.
Good point.
And you know what's fascinating to me in the story of your dad and just thought of war, you know, because we get a lot of questions around why would God allow war? Why would there be so much suffering in the world? And you know, you come to realize, and you know, and my current understanding is that you can't really ask why, but what we can observe is, or you can ask why, but you're not going to get an answer. Well, what you can observe is that we are in a perfect world where we have literally every gamut of experience, from the lowest of the low, you know, suffering and survival, to the highest of high, enlightenment, and everything in between. And you know, it's up to each individual to glean what they can and from their circumstances. So when I think about like that generation, your dad's generation that fought in World War II and survived and came out of horrific experiences that you couldn't even imagine. Right. You know, I think about like, well, he came out with a purpose. He came out with a knowingness that like, hey, I got spared, my buddies didn't, and I'm going to live my life. And you know, there's a value to that. And it's not that like no one should say, oh, we should have war because of that, but it is a fact of humanity that humanity, I say they, I might reveal myself if I say that, but humanity continues to repeat the same ego mind problems and ending up in these cycles of conflict and violence. But there is good things that can come out of those things. I think of Viktor Frankl and his whole philosophy and what came out of him suffering in the concentration camp. And it's extraordinary.
Well, Man's Search for Meaning definitely is number one favorite book. I don't think that'll ever be topped. If something tops that. By the way, the book I just read from Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, it's I Can See Clearly Now. That's his memoir. So that's number two.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's second favorite book. But just because of, you know, my father and how my parents met, like my litmus test is my father, like in terms of, and I don't believe in excuses. I literally don't understand them. It's like it's like speaking another language for me that I don't know. But so he was shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute. He wrote about that. I have it right in the other room here. And then he would just get back into another plane. So that's my litmus test for anything. So when I hear people, and there's no right or wrong or judgment, but when I hear people complaining about trivial things, I literally don't understand it. And the people I really, 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 really care about the most or love the most are the bravest. They're the bravest ones. They have this ability to not make excuses, no matter what. And I can feel it. 11 life paths, they're the most intuitive. They can just feel things. They're the most sensitive. So when I can feel that immediately, it's the greatest magnet, and I have the most respect and appreciation for people like that. It's very rare, and I can feel someone's honor. I can feel.
Well, I love that, and I couldn't agree more. And let's dig into that a little bit, just to kind of flush it out for maybe people who are on their own path. We might be talking to some youngsters who are like aspiring to leadership, who are also interested in this discussion. And what do we mean by that? And it isn't that. And I'll define it from my side, and you tell me if you agree with this or if you think differently. There's no excuses. In other words, we control our own destiny. That doesn't mean we control every outcome. It means we control our.
It's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, what we bring to the table, we control how we show up. How we show up for an opportunity, a challenge, a situation. We give it our all. We give it our full everything. Embodiment, our full presence. There's no distract. We are doing whatever we're doing. If it's cleaning the kitchen, or if it's training the new puppy, which I've been doing lately, or if it's, which I hope I'm living up to that puppy.
That dog is great. Bodhi's
Oh my god! Or if it's doing a giant deal, or putting your book together, or speaking on stage to a big audience, whatever it is, whatever level, it doesn't matter what it is. Are we giving it our all? Are we fully present in the moment and giving it? And that's what you mean by no excuses. Like there's no, like, I'm not going to leave anything on the table. You were
everything.
yeah. We were at the IPI thing. Like I gave some fireside chats, and I had with different guests, and you saw, like, I think some of them. I'm being respectful, but I'm trying to bring out things that are not in their bio, not in the book that they published, not in like the thing you read. I'm trying to get them to share something more deeply that might connect with the other people in the audience. But to do that, I'm showing up. I'm there. I'm fully present, and I'm not trying to be super blunt or making them uncomfortable, but I'm also trying to bring them into the present moment as much as I can. And I think because of that, we had some great real essence shared there.
Yeah. Well, one, thanks for saying that. And if it's, I'm not big into context, but if it's, I'm a relator, so if it's helpful for context, I was a journalist for 20 years, so interviewed tens of thousands of people and then simplified into patterns. And for people like us, a great way for them to open up, blank name, insert visionary, whatever, and then they talk about all the great things that she or he is up to. And then not counting silver spoons. I know a lot of silver spoons. I just introduced a Rockefeller to a DuPont. I thought that was great. There are four things that separate people like us from people who aren't. There's just so four things. So one is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. Two, depression. Three, highest level of anxiety you can imagine. Four, trauma as a child or young adult. So bankruptcy, potential bankruptcy, depression, anxiety, trauma as a child or young adult. So since COVID, not counting the silver spoons, I think I've talked to 8 or 9 folks who are less than 3 of those 4 things. Less. Most of the people I talk to are all 4. I'm 3 of the 4. Knock on wood, haven't had to worry about bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. However, I would bankrupt myself. Not my family, but I would bankrupt myself to do this book and all this other stuff. Like I would gladly do that. But most of the people I talk to are all 4 now. And then most of what they've built is a mask to cover those 4 things. That's
sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
I
mean, I spent a lot of years running from childhood trauma that I didn't remember.
Right.
And then, sorted that out. I definitely have at least 3 of the 4. And I say had because while it's always a part of one, it's part, my history, each of our experience is always kind of a part of that us. Once you transcend that pain and you go through this alchemic process of embodying the trauma with the learning lessons, with forgiveness, with all the different pieces that cause alchemy to happen. You're no longer in that state, and you can look at it non-attachment in a way that is very helpful, and it creates an incredible ability to hold space for others who are suffering, others who are going through these things. I find that I now get coming to me people who are suffering 100%. For some reason.
100%.
And Justin, before, like I would be looking, like, while you're telling me some trauma you have, I'd be looking at, like, where's the closest bar that we could go get a drink and lighten this conversation. That was the old smoke. And like now I'm like, okay, tell me more. What does that really mean to you, Justin? So different kind of bar. Like, I'm at a different, like, ability to hold space, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it's called evolution, and it's called evolution. I liken it to a caterpillar, well, an egg, and then a caterpillar, and then the caterpillar goes into a cocoon, a chrysalis, and then it literally disintegrates. So it's called positive disintegration. So the caterpillar melts, it becomes an ooze, and then the body shifts around, like only it's very little, like last little bit of essential life, most important body parts. It just melts, and then it becomes a butterfly, and then the butterfly comes out of the cocoon, the chrysalis. I would describe if it's helpful, I would say you're fully out. It's interesting that we're doing this interview now. I would say all these things that I guess I'm doing, I would say they're the butterfly about to come out. I would say I'm like right at the part where I've disintegrated for sure, whether you call that dark night of the soul or whatever, spiritual awakening, whatever that is, coming out as a butterfly very soon, or maybe already have come out and then like the wings are drying. But I love talking to people like you. One, because it's very rare. Two, I would say you're more evolved than I am, which is I'd rather be in that situation. I really like helping people and being a space for them. It's very rare for me to talk to people who are more evolved. So I'm grateful for that because you're further along on this journey than I am.
Well, yeah. Thank you. It's funny, like you think, and as soon as you think you're really evolved, like go spend a week with your family and see what pops up, right? And so I had opportunities like last year to kind of spend a good amount of quality time with various constituents of family members, and it was a really good like litmus test of where am I, where do I think I am versus where am I. And Ken Wilber talks about like ground zero, which I like, but one of his things is, where are you at ground zero? And as we transcend levels of awareness, consciousness, and become more aware of things, you get a bigger contextualization view of everything below that level, but you can't see above it. You can't see above it. So as we keep going, so all I know is like, I don't know what I don't know, Justin. Like I know less now than I knew before, but the things that bothered me before don't bother me whatsoever.
That's the evolution. That's the evolution. And again, thanks for saying that. The last little, maybe this answers it, but like the last little bit, I think, before the butterfly fully comes out, is the ego. The ego is very tricky, very manipulative.
Yeah.
And so that's one. And then, because you've mentioned this a couple times, which is, I don't believe in randomness, but it's letting go of attachment to any outcome, to any outcome. Very difficult. That's very difficult. Very, very difficult. And then people cite like the surrender experiment or the word surrender. Me personally, I do not like that word. One, because I come from a long line of war heroes that if you say the word surrender, that is not that you end up in POW camp or dead. So I just don't like that word. It doesn't resonate with me. So the word that I was reading a spiritual article on Medium, and the word they used instead of surrender was relaxing. So that
relaxing. I could see that. And letting go is another look at that. Surrender, I had some resistance to that too. And my only comment on that is, for me, surrendering to divinity, to a higher power, to cosmic heart, to infinite consciousness, to God, is a different thing than surrendering to anything else. So it's just a lens of that word, which I don't bow my head to any human, any natural situation, and I don't view anyone as above anyone else. I think there are certainly people who are more conscious and more aware. Everybody has this divine light inside, and it's just how much of it is covered up in your unconsciousness.
The tar.
Yep, the tar analogy we talked about, and I think that really feels good to me, because we had that conversation over lunch where we were talking about spiritual ego, right? Like creeping in, which is that can happen in this process as you drop your human ego mind, and you feel like one feels like they are progressing and becoming much more conscious and aware. It's easy to creep back in through like, oh, I'm at a higher level, I'm special, I'm this, I'm that. What keeps me grounded is the humility of knowing that every single living entity, human and non-entity, like that rock behind me and those plants by everything, is only manifest because of divine energy, divine light, and they exist in all of us. And so it's more a matter of, doesn't mean I don't have discernment. That's it. I'd love to talk about that, because
happy to.
That's extremely important. But you can have discernment, and you can avoid, quote, evil or things that are ignorance with discernment, without judging or feeling like someone or something is below you. It's not that; it's that they are less evolved.
Yeah, they're on their own journey. The first thing I do every day when I wake up, it's from a book called The Prayer of Jabez, Jabez. But
I read it because you recommended it.
Oh, great. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil. That's the first thing I'd say it's done. I've been reading that for over a year now, so I'd say it's pretty good. And then discernment. So discernment, again, for a tactical, so it actually can help people. There's a great assessment called Working Genius, workinggenius.com.
Okay.
And
Working Genius.
Most of the people not all, but most of the people I talk to are like wonder inventors, so they're ideators, and then they have a mix of either discernment or galvanize. So I'm actually, it's called discernment galvanize. So that's the intuitive activator. So I can hear blah 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 blah, or meet 1,000 people, and then there's one idea, or there's one of those 1,000 that either they just come to me, like I'm guessing happens to you all the time. That's just a magnet, or like I can just feel it, I can sense it, and then galvanize. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, there's a great idea. Okay, do it. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, start a music company. Okay, do it. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look, Deepak Chopra just walked in when I was ringing the NASDAQ bell. I don't know what an IPO is or anything financial. I was ringing the NASDAQ bell in February of 2024, and then Deepak Chopra walks in. I go, oh, it'd be great if you did intro for next books. And that was before I'd even started writing the book. So then
that's awesome.
Okay, great. So that's discernment. Galvanized.
You had Deepak. I went to I did an interview on the New York Stock Exchange floor years back, and in the elevator was some guy. Obviously, felt like he was really important, and I was just like going in for my interview. I was, I wasn't really paying much attention, and he, we said hello to each other, and he was going on the same show I was going on. I said, "Hi, I'm Smoke," and he's like, "I'm Craig." I'm like, "Oh, hi, Craig." Whatever. And he's like, from the list. Oh. Craig, you mean Craigslist? Oh, that's cool. Nice to meet you, Craig. But it was like it was why he thought I would ever know who he looks like. Cause I think he's been pretty much behind the scenes. But anyway, it was very funny. Anyway, that was just made me think of you ringing the bell. Made me think of that.
Of course, so great point. Oh man, okay, so that's serendipity. So like serendipity means like you're going somewhere or looking for something, but it's what you weren't looking for.
Oh yeah.
So like going to speak at the event which you chaired, it was an amazing opportunity. I'm endlessly grateful for it. And then I met someone there who were starting a company based on, I didn't expect to start another company about leadership, but that's just kind of what, when you float around and lead with your heart and then have that discernment and then the ability to mechanize, galvanize it. And then just for any age leader or whoever it is, I'm really good at starting it, but I need the backstage people to run the company, to understand the finances part. That is not it's never going to be my expertise. I don't want it to be. There's a spiritual test. If you Google free spiritual test, there's many of them, but I'm what's called an ascetic or an ascetic, ASCETIC. Greatest fear for an ascetic is useless materialism. So a lot of money, doing all this, that is literally an ascetic's greatest fear. Famous ascetics or ascetics, Jesus and Francis Assisi. That's kind of how I live my life. So I don't really like materialistic things, but I need to be around people who can generate revenue and income, because one, they're much better at it than I am, but two, having that allows me to fulfill my purpose. It allows me to have freedom. So it's realizing that.
Yeah, no, it's realizing it and being okay with it. You know,
Yeah.
it's fine if someone wants to renounce the world and give up all things and live in a monastery. And frankly, those monks living in the monasteries help hold the world together with their
Yes,
consciousness. I mean, that the field they hold is very important. So
absolutely.
so that's great, and it's fine to manifest abundance and to be around abundance. It's don't it's the attachment to it.
Oh,
It's the
100%.
well, I think in retrospect, right, in context, one reason I was always willing to, talk about your four things, or the trauma thing, the
Yeah.
bankruptcy thing. For me, someone once told me, Mike Colby, is you make rags to riches a round trip. So you'll
Mm.
appreciate that. But it's the pure quick
Mm.
start
Yes.
entrepreneur, big
Yes.
game hunter,
Me
um,
too.
and part of my in retrospective is, looking back, is like I never. It's not that I didn't care, not that I didn't get anxious or upset when I was running into an issue. I did. I'm human, but it was like I never cared enough to not be to be unwilling to take the risk to lose it all again. And I
Right.
did that. I did that a bunch of times on paper. 10, 50, or more 100 million on paper was there, and then it was gone. I did it a few times, but it's
Right.
not. And I'm not saying that's great. Like, it would be a lot smarter to take some off the table and not like go to zero or negative, which I did do a couple times.
Of course.
Also, I just never cared that much. Like, I was never worried as much about that. And my view was always like, oh, I'll just do it again. I'll do something else. And I never worried about it. So I was willing to take some risks that I think, felt unusual to a lot of people.
So to operate and function like that is one, it's very rare. Again, even for a true visionary, it's very rare. And then two, my favorite quote is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He wrote it in the mid 1800s. To be great is to be misunderstood. To be great is to be misunderstood. And the word average comes from the French word averie, A-V-E-R-I-E. It means damage to a ship or cargo. That's what it means.
Hmm.
And
I love that. Actually, it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, that's what it means. And the word business, by the way, comes from bisignus, which means anxiety.
Hmm.
Anxiety. I had never understood wanting to be average. And again, it's not above, or it's just like, to me, baseline is great. Like
But but that Emerson quote is great. I love that because
yeah.
what does that imply? That mean what it implies to me, if you take your definition of average, you put them together. What that
Mm,
implies to me is that going with the flow. If you go with the flow with the paradigm of society that is put on you, you will be understood and average. And
mm,
if you are willing to break that paradigm, go against the
yes.
flow, people
Yes.
will understand you. You will not be average. And it's actually our innate purpose here is to be our own person, not to go with the flow, not to just be a
Yeah.
good citizen in this way or that. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean everyone needs to break the glass and everyone needs to go do something that is out of the realm. But
Yeah.
if you define yourself by whatever the paradigm is that's been put on you by society, you're average, you're understood. And to me, like, that's not a good thing.
I would agree. The I do a lot of learning and reading. One, because it helps me, but also if I can learn something that can help others, then that's good. Because like again, it's not a solitary confinement. It's learning something and then informing people. But so
That's why
Carl
we're
Jung,
here.
right?
Totally.
That I would agree. So
Yeah.
Carl Jung, Dr. Carl Jung, he was great. Most people know him or have heard of him. He had a disciple named Robert Johnson who did a lot of like Grail work. So most people think the Holy Grail is like this outward search for something material. Holy Grail, it's actually an inner search for your own heart, inner search. But so my favorite quote from Robert Johnson, which dovetails what you're talking about, and this is paraphrasing. For a select few, there is a determination to seek liberation from social hypnosis or social conditioning. So for a select few, there is a determination to seek liberation from social conditioning, social hypnosis. So essentially what that means is, and again, being aware of this is the most, it's the first step. It's the first step, and then being an observer for it, and then informing people. So awareness, observing, informing. But you see the world's just this giant mask, essentially. It's a giant human construct of anxiety, or religion means to bind. The word family, which I did not put in the book, although I'll reveal it now, the word family actually is referring to household slaves, household staff. That's what family actually means.
I tried to make my children that for a little while, but they revolted.
Well, that's good.
They overthrew their chains,
but that's what it literally.
They made me the slave.
Well, and so like it's kind of funny, but that's like if you go out to if you just go out to a restaurant and watch a family, how they communicate. Most families, not all. There's certainly some, but that's what it means. And then so being aware of this, it's great. Observing it is great, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit back and not do anything about it, or are you going to seek liberation from it and then make others aware of that, or at least explain it in a way that might get them to think or feel differently about what's going on in their hearts and heads?
Your relationships change, Justin, when
oh yes they do.
And when you come at things from
they do
not from lack, when you come at things with that conscious awareness that you're saying, if you're aware of all of the things, or as many of the things that you're aware of as whatever they are, because you're never aware of all the things, but you're aware of things, and you are in a relationship because it's productive, it's useful, it's friendly, it's loving, it's caring. We are humans, so like we are naturally drawn to that. But you're not in it from lack. You're not in it because you need something from that person. You're in it because we are all one part of humanity, and we're helping each other in some way, shape, or form. But it's a very different feeling to come at things from that perspective. And I think it's not coming at any of this stuff as wanting or needing something. I had that, as I'd gone through this process, I clearly had lack in my youth, and then it drove my entrepreneurial ambitions and the things that I was focused on. And I was about, how do I accumulate? How do I do these things? And it was always more than accumulate. It was more, how do I get notoriety? How do I break from the clutter? Because that was, in a way, and it was important, was protection for me because of where I came from. The press, the notoriety, the being a part of some bigger society thing was actually protection for me from what I was escaping.
Of course. Yeah,
but today I come at it and I don't care. Like I had the benefit of Fast Money on CNBC. I've done these shows on TV. I've done all this. I've been in tons and tons of articles, and I know all about that. I'm glad I did it. It was great for my learning and my experience. But I don't really care now. Like if I do it, it's because it's supposed to happen and it makes sense, and it's a platform to get the word out and help more people in some way, shape, or form, or get people that need to hear my message, or for whatever reason, they'll hear it because of that, and they wouldn't have heard it otherwise. But it isn't for the other reasons anymore.
Well, again, thanks for saying that. And then as someone I was a journalist for 20 years and who, started a global PR firm. So like doing all that stuff's fine. It's great. But I completely resonate with what you're saying. And then about a week ago from today, I wrote out, I'll text you this afterwards, but it's 5 things that we want, and then I'll just read them. 1, purpose that brings peace and joy to the world. 2, talks about the partnership, but true love and understanding from the partner who enhances that peace and joy and sharing mutual harmony. So you don't need something to complete you. You want to be and need to be with someone who enhances that, who understands it, and it's exponential. Okay. 3, the ability to see obstacles as the greatest formulas for true greatness. 4, this was a triangle shape I did, but Inner love creates more attracting perfect match, which creates more divine union, which creates more inner love, and then it's a triangle. And then the fifth one, which is really, this is an example of that, but where the world's really heading, maybe this is the most valuable one, but embrace technology as the ultimate soul collaborator, which leads to healing yourself / healing collective consciousness. That's what I've really learned about technology, specifically AI, ChatGPT, and then making these songs. I guess one of the companies I started is teaching people how to make songs through AI,
and what is that one called?
That one's called, that's what, Corvia.ai, Corvia.ai.
Well, for me, and I want to comment two things on that. First of all, I really like that. I like the fourth one, which is, self-love. What I now know, with a deep knowing, is you really can't give love if you don't have love for yourself. Like, you have
It's
to love.
hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy.
Yes. And there's a lot of people out there pushing do-gooderism, or
it's a mask.
but
It's a mask.
and it's usually projection. It's usually some mask,
Yes,
because of
absolutely.
something else. It doesn't mean that it's everyone, but virtue signaling, as defined by taking a position so that people will think something, that you are some kind of person, is that it is making up for a lack of self-love and discovery that you have. And I've always had little or no tolerance for it, and living through the last decade of silliness in our society. I honestly, like, I kept my head down more than I didn't, because it just wasn't worth the fights. But I also held firm on, like, I'm not gonna say something because everyone thinks it's the right thing to say. Like, this is silliness, and it feels like a big weight has been lifted off society with what's happening. Yeah, we don't need to get into politics here, because I don't care, but I do care about that. I care about, if you have a cause that you care about, you have something that is important to you, whatever it is, the Palestinians, the Jewish state, the homeless, sexually abused children, you name it, whatever it is, like things, all these things they're all part of society. They're all important. And if you believe in something and you want to make a contribution to it, and you, by your being, you are supporting that thing, great. But if you're on your soapbox just yelling out at other people, and you haven't looked in the mirror and dealt with your own stuff, like, that's hypocrisy
at the highest level. I guess, to simplify that, if you're not a litmus test for people you serve, it's hypocrisy. So, okay, so I'm from two things from that, again, because hopefully to help or inform. Okay, so I'll do it from a first-hand experience, and then a lot of what I see, a lot. Okay, and this is just to make people aware, hopefully. So one, my purpose in life is connecting visionaries to serve humanity. So visionaries. So I'm a visionary serving humanity. Okay, that's a litmus test. So I talk to visionaries who are serving humanity. They have the capital. Most of them have the capital to do it. If they don't have the capital to do it, they'll find a way to do it. They're not making an excuse. Okay, no excuses. We have to be able to mechanize. And then what I do see quite a bit is, and it's a really fascinating thing, I don't understand it, but I see it, is you have a massive part of the population that asks people to invest in them, whether that's time or capital, connections, etc. And then they don't have the connections, they don't have the capital, and then they're not, most importantly, they're not investing in themselves. So it's this fascinating dynamic of people asking others to invest in what they're doing or saying, and then they don't have the capital to actually invest in themselves and what they're doing or saying. And I've never understood. I just literally don't understand it. But there's this massive part of the population. Maybe in quote, in our world, there's more of it. Not in the employee world, but in this world where they're on a soapbox talking about this, but not actually doing anything about it. If that makes sense.
The reality is, the essence of ourselves is actually quite transparent. Once you're aware, once you're at a certain level of consciousness, you can basically sense or see the essence of people. And we are like the beingness of ourselves is a manifestation of everything that's come before, and all the potential meeting the other potential that's around you. So we think, oh, I'm out here being really happy and everything, but I have these negative self-talk. I'm having these horrible thoughts about myself, or I had a CEO recently who I know she has a lot of negative self-talk, and then she gets up and talks in front of a group, and she's very self-deprecating. It kind of is funny, but I took her aside and I said, listen, you're the CEO of this now, and you are a great leader, and you've earned this, and stop with the negative. I knew that the self deprecating mannerisms and talk was a manifestation of her negative self-talk, and it was her way of like making light of her nervousness in front of the group. And I was like, listen, you belong here, and you need to just take hold of the situation and quit the negative self-talk. I don't shit on people, but in this case she asked, and I was like, okay, well, here's what I see. Stop shitting on yourself, get rid of the negative self-talk, and own it. Just get up and own it outright. Don't
I'm happy to talk to her, by the way. That'd be a good end.
Yeah, but I mean that, and so, but we think these internal dialogues, you have a negative thought about somebody or you judge somebody, you think it's your own thing, but actually if they're at a certain level, they know it. They absolutely know it. Like it is everything everyone thinks, feels, or does is recorded by the universe and is available if you're at a certain level of consciousness to see. So we're all an open book, even if you don't think you are.
Great. Yeah, an unconscious open book. You brought that out. That's an interesting. Well, if it's helpful as a relator, I just messaged you, by the way, because one of us has to have follow through. So I just sent you a reminder to introduce me. And so most people think that's rude, but people like us are like, oh, that's just good multitasking. But
yeah, no, you are actually really good at like doing it on the spot. And my only criticism, it's not really criticism, is what the heck is the introduction is like, Moke, meet Mark, go. So there's no background.
No context.
It's like, all right, so we have to just assume there's something here, and like we should have a conversation.
Yes.
So I just go with it, but it's funny.
Yes. Thank you. I'll try to do one sentence of context for the next.
Even like a couple of clues, like a couple of words. Like
I'll do a clue. I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to remember you said that.
Yeah.
So from her perspective, I really appreciate her being vulnerable, because if she's vulnerable, that allows other people to be vulnerable. And then she has very high level self-awareness because she respected your opinion.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing that she'll take what you said and actually do something about it. So that's a very evolved leader who's looking into herself or himself to make themselves a better leader so they can attract better leaders and help others become better leaders. So that's a very profound thing, a very profound anecdote you shared, because that's what a true leader really does. One, they're very self-aware. Two, they have an ability to be vulnerable, to help others. And then three, they will take, I don't like the word advice, but they'll take criticism, not criticism, but they'll take feedback, not as a criticism at all, but to get better. And so
it's really a superpower, Justin. And I think, again, on your theme of helping people on the path, the ability to acknowledge your lack of, I don't have all the answers. I have some experiences that I can contribute to this situation, but that may be different than what I know, and there may be different things that I don't understand about it that I'm not aware of. So I'm going to walk into every situation with a lot of humility and a lot of, okay, I have my tool set of the things I know how to react to, but let's make sure that it's the right, like I'm understanding everything. And by going in with that open-minded stance, things become evident that would not otherwise become evident. Like if I came in and I said, "Oh, Justin, I know exactly your problem. I've seen it before. Here's the solution. I can help you." Da 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 da. As opposed to really like holding judgment and just being like, "All right, what is this situation really? What am I not seeing?" And just being aware of like asking that question, things become evident that would not otherwise show up. Oh, it's actually a different thing altogether.
Well, you come at it with the right, well, maybe right's not the right word, but the framework. It's a containment framework, meaning active listening, active listening. And then if it doesn't fit the formula that you've already created, well, then you just create a new formula or you learn a new formula. And then conscious conscious conversations convert to capital, community, and collaboration. So that's a lot of alliteration and a lot of C words, but bringing these type of conversations into the conscious collective, it leads to those type of collaborations and learning. So like on a strategic structural standpoint or whatever, procedural, my whole day is having conversations, like I guess in human terms, Monday through Friday is having conversations like this, whether they're one-on-one, whether they're recorded or not, whether they're in a group mastermind forum that I'm either leading or participating in. And most of them are done, not all, but most of them are done virtually with technology. Very few one-on-one in-person meetings anymore, because technology is a better way of, to me, a better way of enhancing your soul without having to go anywhere. But the main thing, to your point, is being the observer, a critical observer, and then learning something from it. And then if you have something that might be beneficial, then share it. And if you learn something that can be beneficial in active time, then learn it and then share it. So that's, I think this conversation for me personally is a combination of that. So like I have some things to share, and then I'm learning a lot from you that I can process immediately and then share right now or share later. So thank you for that.
Well, yeah, thank you. We are where we spend our energy.
Yeah.
We are, and our energy is where you put your time, thought. It's all those things, and every experience we have is becoming part of us. So we are changed by every conversation. So I am blessed to have this conversation with you, Justin, and to be changed by our dialogue. There's several things I need to run down that you mentioned that I now want to look at and see how they reflect on things I'm thinking about. And if people want to reach you, I know you spend most of your time with a very select group of visionaries, but if they want to reach your work, they want to understand more about some of the things you've mentioned, what's the best site, place, location? How do you interact?
Sure. If it's okay, I'll provide two. But I guess currently the main company, it's called theepicfit.com, theepicfit.com. It's a global, I guess, mastermind where we talk about things like this. And then most of our members, not all, but most of them are fairly wealthy, so they have the capital to actually impact humanity very quickly. So theepicfit.com, and then I'm on LinkedIn, Justin Breen. You can reach out to me there as well.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate this, and I hope you'll join me for further conversations, because I think we just scratched the surface on a couple things, and I think we have lots more to get into.
We could do once a month, if not twice a month. That would be a good show for sure. So I'm happy.
Yeah.